Okay, let's begin Lesson 2, Complementary and Supplementary Angles. Now I want you to start off by looking at each side here. Both sides share something in common, so I want you to pause the video and think about what it is that makes them similar, makes them have the same idea. So discuss this with your group. Okay. After some discussion, I hope that you see that if we add these two angle measures together, this 40 plus 50, we get 90. And the same thing happens over here. 68 plus 22 is 90. So both of these add up to equal 90 degrees. When two angles do that, they're called complementary angles. So two angles are complementary if the sum of their angle measures is 90 degrees. And just like in our previous slide, they can be two angles that are separate, they can still be called complementary, or they can be two angles that are together and be complementary. So let's do some examples. Are these complementary? So I want you to pause the video and check to see, are these four angles complementary? Okay, so let's start with number 1. If you look, we have 33 plus 57. That gives us 90. So yes, number 1 are complementary angles. 44 plus 47. 44 plus 47 is close. That is 91 degrees. So no, they are not complementary. 45 plus 45 is 90. And 72 plus 18 is also 90. So it looks like 1, 3, and 4 are complementary. We're going to call them a complementary pair. Each one of these is a pair of complementary angles. Pair meaning two. Now, this is a similar idea to the previous slide. Let me make a quick adjustment because I messed up. That should say 70. Okay, now I want you to look at these two and compare them and pause the video, discuss with your group to see if you see anything in common. Okay, well, I hope my mistake didn't give it away, but if you look here, you see that 110 plus 70 equals 180, and 130 plus 50 also equals 180. So both of these add up to 180. If two angles add up to 180, they're called supplementary angles. So two angles are supplementary if the sum of their measures is 180 degrees. So they're a pair of supplementary angles if they add up to 180. And again, they can be two separate angles, or they can be angles that are beside each other. So some examples. I want you to pause the video and work through these to see, are they supplementary? Okay, let's start with number 1. We have 89 plus 91. That gives us 180. So yes, number 1 is. Now number 2 is a bit different. We don't know the degree measure because it doesn't tell us a number. But we do know that these boxes tell us something. They tell us it's a right angle. And we know that a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. So 90 plus 90 is 180. So 1 and 2 are supplementary angles. And let's look at 3. We have 132 plus 50. That's 182 degrees. It's close, but no cigar. So number 3 is not supplementary. Okay. Now I want you to look at these 3 angles up here and answer the following questions below with your group. So pause the video. Okay. Now if we look, what can we say about angle A and angle B? Well, using what we done earlier in this lesson, we see that the angle A is 30 degrees, angle B is 60 degrees. Well, if we add them together, we get 90. So we know that A and B are complementary. What about C and B? Well, it looks like C is also 30, and angle B is 60, which means that those two together are also 90. So we know that A is a complement to B, C is a complement to B. So finally, what can we say about angle A and angle C together? Well, we can't say they're complementary because we know that 30 plus 30 doesn't equal 90, it's 60. But what do we know if angles have the same measure? They're congruent. So we can say that angle A is congruent to angle C. This brings us to the congruent complements theorem. Now, a theorem is a bit different than a postulate. A theorem is something that can be proven, and it has the ability to be disproven, but we just assume it's not. So it says that if 2 angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. That's what happened over here. A and C were both complementary to B, so if A's a complement to B, C's a complement to B, A and C have to equal the same measure, which means that they are congruent. I want you to do a similar thing here. I want you to look at these 3 angles and see what you can conclude about angle A and angle B, angle C, angle B, and then finally, what can you say about angle A and angle C? So please pause the video and discuss this with your group. Okay, so if we look at angle A and angle B, we see that A is 100, B is 80, so they add up to 180. So they are supplements. They're supplementary angles. And the same thing happens over here with C and B. They're also supplements. So I hope you were able to determine this kind of follows the same idea as our congruent complements theorem. If 2 angles are supplementary to the same angle, then we can say that those 2 angles have to be the same, therefore they are congruent. And that brings us to our congruent supplements theorem, which discusses that. It says that if 2 angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. And that is a congruent supplements theorem.